aren't the droids we're looking for.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's them! Blast them!
Hello everybody, and welcome to my first and technically your first tactics video with our new collaboration. Super excited to get the first video out to you guys, and super excited to be welcome to the channel. So I'm so thankful for Jerry for giving me this opportunity. Super excited to pump out some content for you guys as we look further into this and as we get things rocking and rolling. The first thing I'm going to tell you guys right now is this channel is all about fun and enjoying Legion to its fullest. What I'm going to try to focus on as you see my face more and more is getting you better at Legion so that way you can enjoy the game more. Not everyone is going to be the best player ever, and you don't have to win every game to enjoy it. But getting better at the game can make it a lot more fun. So the biggest thing that I'm going to try to teach you guys is just getting better at the game, whether you're playing with your buddy in your garage or you want to be one of the best. Getting better at Legion is something that I've enjoyed doing throughout my Legion career, and the best way we can do that today is to look at some tips and tricks for getting it good at Legion 2.0. That's our biggest focus for today. Is I'm just going to throw in some basic run-of-the-mill suggestions for you guys as you get more and more comfortable with this new version of the game that we've been presented. So these are going to be really basic overviews of things that I think are lessons that I've learned enjoying learning to play this new version of the game, regardless of what skill level you're at, whether you're a pro or you're an amateur, someone that's getting into the game or coming back to it. I think there's going to be something here for you. You may not need every single one of these, but I promise you there'll be one that you'll be willing to learn from. So the first thing that I'm going to say is these are some things about me and why you should ever listen to anything I have to say. This isn't some bragging fest. This is really just here for you guys to know that I'm not just spitting out things for content, but I'm here to give you guys things that I genuinely think will help you. I've been able to find success throughout multiple tournaments, especially our locals. Playing 3 years now, I played every faction, every unit, so regardless of what kind of player you are, what faction you own, I promise I have something for you to help you get better at the game. Diversity in playstyle, I played 4 Caesar gun lines to double bounty to full Wookiee army, 14 ACK Ewoks, you name it. It's been a fun time to play all the different things in Legion, and that's because I love it. So I'm going to continue to dive deeper into the game and try new things. I always want to help others find success because at the end of the day, what I do in life outside of this is teaching. And so that's kind of my goal for you guys every time you see my face, is that I can teach you guys something that I've learned through my own experiences of Legion so you guys can get better. So the first tip I'm going to give you guys is just learning to lose. And that sounds kind of contradicting to what we're trying to talk about, but the first way to get better is to lose. I had to learn this the hard way when I started Legion. I think I was 0-12 as I started the game playing with, you know, some of the local residents past COVID, and it was tough. I was like, man, I really suck at this game, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be good. And then I was able to pretty much 360 that type of narrative around and be very successful at the games that I do play. So it's a new game for everyone. And I think with 2.6 that's thrown some people off is they used to be good at the game, and now this drastic change in objectives and play style and deployments is really hurting some people's, well, sometimes ego. Because we had that enigma before that we were really good at the game, and all of a sudden it feels like I gotta start over from the ground up. So my advice to some of you that used to find more success before this version is just learn to lose. It's good. I love losing, especially against really good opponents, because those are usually the games I think about the most and say, what could I have done differently? So don't be a bad sport. That's the first way to learn to lose, is just play the game to enjoy it. Remember, we're just pushing little plastic people around, and even if you are the best of the best, you're not winning $40 million. You're gonna get a couple prize support things and you're out the door. So be content with losing. Don't be upset, don't be angry, be a good sport, be someone that people want to play so you can get all types of gamers and all types of experiences while you're playing the game. Take every loss as a lesson rather than a failure. In other words, don't hung up on, oh, well, you know, he said this one thing about me, or I had this really bad roll that messed everything up. Don't do that. Focus on the lesson as a whole. Why did I lose? Not, oh, you know, bad dice, or he had an army that beat my army because it was just a bad matchup. Sometimes those things are true, but try to focus on the things that you could have controlled, things you could have done differently to make the game better for you. The next thing is what went right, what went wrong? What can you control? Okay, these are my 3 things, is what went right, what went wrong, and what could you control? Those are the 3 questions you should ask yourself after every game that you lose, and sometimes after you win. So that's my first lesson, is just learn to lose, especially as we enter a new game. The second is making the most of your time. Whether it's life, having 3 kids, a wife, whoever, whatever going on in your life, I know that it's busy. And when we're taking 3-4 hours out of our day to drive up to a game store, set up everything and play, it's a big asking point to get Legion out on a week-to-week basis, to play with the people that we want to play with or get the games in that we want to. It takes time, energy, and effort that a lot of times we don't have to spare. So, if you are looking to get better at Legion, learning to make the most of the games you can get is a huge launching pad for those players looking to get better. I always say quality over quantity. If you play with your buddy in the garage, 10 times in a week, and you guys played the same list against each other again and again and again and again, you may not learn as much as just getting 1 game in with that guy that you haven't played yet, but is really good at your local game store. Not saying there's anything wrong with playing with your friend. By all means, do it. One of my best experiences is playing with my friend who lives down the road. We are pretty equal in skill level, and we learn a lot from each other, but at the same time, I never would have gotten better at the game if I just stuck playing him over and over and over again. Same thing for him. He had to learn to do these things and progress as a player. So, with all these things being said, we have to look at the quality of the games we are playing. Pre-game. This is a really big thing that I think solves a lot of the issues that people run into with getting good quality games. Communicate with who you're trying to play with. Tell people what kind of game you're looking for. Especially as someone that tries to be competitive pretty consistently, I have no problem bringing a fun, casual list to a Monday night game of Legion with somebody that's not necessarily the most experienced or the best at the game yet. So I always try to communicate with my opponents, hey, what kind of game are you looking for? That saves a lot of time, energy, and effort, especially if you're not really looking for a casual game and you want to play a competitive game. Well, you might have just dodged a 3-hour bullet of playing with someone that's just learning. And it's not in the sense that you don't want to do that or give that person that time, but you can respect your own time by saying, oh, that's not really what I'm looking for right now. I actually am looking to play against someone really good to challenge myself as I get ready for a tournament or a big event. So sometimes it's good to just communicate ahead of time. Whether you're looking for a casual game or a competitive game, just communicating with your opponent about what you want will save yourself a lot of trouble. I think this will also help you learn to play people that you're not used to, people you're unfamiliar with, getting out of that garage and playing with someone at the local game store you've never met. Just kind of talking a little bit beforehand about what you're trying to play, what you're trying to learn, what you're trying to do, does so much. That's honestly one of my favorite games, is when someone in our local community texts me and messages me on Discord and says, hey, I'm trying to prepare for this weekend's tournament, can you play a good list? I'm like, heck yeah, man, what do you want to play against? Empire, Rebels, whatever. That helps me as a competitive player practice things that I'm not really used to either. So it's really good to do that. Re-racking, this is a thing that I have not really done until recently, but it's taught me a lot. Okay, this comes from Ollie himself, the world champion. If you're losing and the game's decided round 1, be done. If you're looking to get better at the game and get more reps in, don't waste your time. Just start over and play again, especially if you lose very early. Be willing to admit, yeah, I'm already losing by 6 points in round 2 of this wonderful new version of Legion we have. I've also lost half my army. I'm not winning this game. That's okay. If your opponent's especially okay with the fact that, they won and they're willing to play again because you've only been playing for 30 minutes, do that. Trust me when I say that it will help you get a lot more games in to just end games when you know they're kind of already over. I'm not saying give up on those, miracle chances of you winning, but when the writing's on the wall and you kind of feel like you've already made enough mistakes, don't waste your time. Move on and play another game. Last thing is be prepared. This can be anything from our wonderful, wonderful unit cards, unit trays, dice, and everything offered on our wonderful store, Jerry's Games Workshop, to wherever else you find stuff, to have your unit cards, have your dice, have your minis, have them ready. Be willing to just, hey, here's all of my information that I need, put it on the table and play. A lot of times I see people dragging everything out of their box slowly and methodically, where it takes a whole hour just for them to kind of get their own stuff out, much less the table and everything else. Have your objectives ready, have your units ready. so you can get the game going more precisely and quickly, so you don't have to end games early or do anything like that. So those are some general tidbits of advice for making the most of your games. And that's lesson number 2. Lesson 3, focus on eliminating chance and luck. While Star Wars Legion is absolutely a dice game, I think nothing more so than cover helps us understand why we want to avoid that as much as possible. In other words, relying on dice to win or lose you games is not a sound strategy, but it is going to come into play whether you want it to or not. The real way of doing this is minimizing it. The best way to look at it is cover. Right now, cover is very random. You have heavy cover and you got 20 shots at you, maybe you block 10, or maybe you block none. It's always up for randomness. And I see a lot of people struggling with cover, especially because, oh, it's so random and it can really hurt you when you don't get the rolls that you need. So the biggest thing I'll say is play like you don't have cover. I've heard a lot of good players saying this especially, and I think it's very good advice. The same thing can be true as of any unit. I'll see people move up death troopers and say, oh, I have surging to defend saves, and they blank 3 dice and 3 are dead, and all of a sudden the unit's not very tough anymore or scary. Same thing's true with cover. Play like you don't have it. Play minimizing the number of dice that you need to win the game. Focus on scoring the objective, positioning, hiding behind LOS blockers, everything as such. The biggest thing as well in this version of Legion especially is trading. This was a big thing in the last version as well, but I think is even more important now. In other words, when I send a unit up to kill something and I hope to one-shot it, I want to know the amount of points I'm getting for that. I want the thing that killed my opponent's unit to cost less than the thing I killed. Rebel sleeper cells are a good example as they're a newer unit. At 75 points, if you throw on the astromech, moving up and killing, I don't know, a squad of death troopers for instance, is fantastic. Because even if everything from my opponent's army shoots back and kills those sleeper cells, I have netted more points in terms of kill points. While we don't rely upon that as much as winning anymore, it's giving me an advantage in terms of how much army I have left versus my opponent. The reason this is so important as well in Legion is because this is an alternating activation game. You go, I go, you go, I go. Because of that, every single turn I want to have these really small wins that stack up that eventually at one point in the game I'm going to run away with the amount of small victories I've had. So eliminate the chance or luck of dice as much as you can by utilizing some of these things. I want protection, I want points, I want other units gone and off the field. But the biggest thing that I'm really looking for is the less dice I have to roll to win the game, the better. Always keep that thought in the back of your mind while you're playing. How can I win without rolling dice? It sounds kind of silly when we talk about a dice game, but when you really start to figure that out, you learn to care a lot less about, oh well, my death troopers rolled 3 blanks, and a lot more about, but he's on the objective, but he scored 2 points, but he did just kill that entire squad. All of those different thoughts accumulate to you worrying less about the rolls that you make and more about the points that you get. That's lesson number 3. Lesson 4, be willing to change. This might be the hardest one out of all of these and the one that I think everyone needs to listen to. If you are going to play Legion, guess what? The game changed pretty dramatically. I would say we had a pretty big flip on what's good versus what's bad in terms of going at each other, having a big clash in the middle round 2 versus sitting back and shooting with my Anakin Padme gunline and losing 1 model every 3 games. We have a really big shift in what Legion looks like. And so I've noticed a lot of people really don't like this because their old play style, the old list or the old whatever they used to play is not that good anymore, or it's just not a sound strategy. That being said, this is not old Legion. Whether whoever's willing to admit it or not, this is a very different game. Play style changes are huge. I used to play 4-Caesar gunlines all the time, and I still do, but I find myself putting more and more melee units in my lists time and time again. And I'm not used to that. I'm not used to playing these massive go at your opponent lists. And so it's a huge change for me too, but I'll tell you what, it's been fun because I've been willing to just accept it and kind of roll with the punches and figure out how it works. And I think that there's plenty of different play styles that work that isn't just, run straight at your opponent and hope you win. but I do think a lot of the old ones have lost a little bit of the competitive edge they used to have. Okay, list changes are obviously a huge thing. You got 200 more points to play with, you've got more list building to work on. So you're gonna have to figure it out one way or another, what changes you're gonna make to that classic list that you used to play every single tournament. And that was your bread and butter, but there's a good chance that it's not gonna work the way it used to, one way or another. Your mindset on the game will evolve for better or worse. As I played with some different people in our local community who are wonderful, awesome to be around, everyone's had different opinions. Some people have gotten better, some people have gotten worse, some people have changed how they played, they've changed armies, and some of them have stopped playing. But for the most part, the changes have seemed pretty positive, in my opinion, for the people playing the game and wanting to play the game. So I think if you open up your mind to this idea of new stuff in Legion, you're gonna find yourself pretty satisfied. So have a more open mind, don't be stuck in the past, be playing the current version of Legion. Accept it, try it, and if you don't like it, don't play. It's no big deal, you're not hurting anyone's feelings. But if you do like the game, give it a chance. Give it a chance to play some new things and try some new strategies that you haven't done before, because that's really opened up my mind and my fun in the current version of the game. So that's lesson number 4, just be willing to change. The last one, effective list building. I think this is a big milestone for all players looking to get better at the game, is somebody just needs to tell you your list isn't that good. And it kind of sucks to say, because sometimes we have these crazy ideas and things that we want to do in the game, but they just don't work. Whether it's a bad unit or a bad idea, sometimes that's just the case. So sometimes we have to, kind of swallow our pride and be like, yeah, that's not that good of a list. I've had to do that myself. One of my first super competitive lists that I thought was going to win me some of my first games and won me my first game of just playing Legion was this triple Wookiee Yoda list, and this is before Kashyyyk Defenders. This is a long time ago. It had like 4 naked phase 1s, and it was not very good. But the running Wookiees at people with Yoda and Chewbacca strategy worked pretty well against, your casual Tuesday opponent. So I thought it'd be good in a tournament, and sure enough, it got curb stomped bad. And I learned pretty quickly that it just wasn't a very good list. It wasn't because I was a terrible player, it was just too simple. My opponent could line up next to me and be like, I know what he's gonna do, and I'm gonna abuse that fact. Sometimes that's the case with our list building, especially now that we have 200 more points. People are really struggling, and someone that doesn't have a full collection can be struggling to fill out the rest of that list with stuff that's just like, yeah, I'm gonna throw some grenades on these stormtroopers. And sometimes that's just unfortunate because it's just not that good. So the ability to win games goes hand in hand with your list. And I think that's a very true statement that is kind of an ugly truth, because we want to win with our list that we made, but sometimes your list may not be good enough. It may be the thing holding you back. But I'll say this, you can make a list that is not on Longshanks, that is not on the internet, that is not on Facebook, wherever you go to find your crazy list ideas, and it be good. The most fun I've ever had playing competitive Legion is when I went to LSO this last summer and played with a crazy list that I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna play this and have fun. The game's changing anyways. I'm gonna try this list that I think is good, against the stuff that's bad. It got me second place. And by no means did I think it was a good list. I thought it was just, craziness, 12 acts of Ewoks, Chewbacca, Han Solo, Bad Batch, just a crazy rebel list. And it was the most fun I've ever had playing competitive Legion, because I sat down and said, I'm gonna make my list. So my goal here isn't to tell you, go copy someone else's good list and play it. My goal here is, if your list is holding you back, move on. Try something different. Put new things into it. So make a list for you is the best way to say it. Make a list that fits your play style, how you like to play and approach the game. My friend that I play with all the time is struggling right now because he's a big time sit back and shoot player. And I think this game makes that a little difficult. And he keeps trying to play these melee aggressive lists. And he's like, man, I just don't like this. And I'm like, yeah, it's not you. Try again to find something that works competitively that is your play style. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to do something that everyone else does, unless you like it. So have fun is the last thing I'll say. Have fun when you're making your list. Make them crazy. Make the stupidest thing you can think of. Put 3 dewbacks in a list where they all have flamethrowers and then 6 flamer snowtroopers. Go for it. But if you're upset at the tournament that it didn't do very well, understand it may not be because you're a bad player, but maybe because you went a little overboard on the whole thought process. So the last thing I have for you guys is just thank you. I'm super excited for this collaboration. I'm hoping to show up every other week to give you guys tactic videos. I'll even do some vlog reports, if you will, from time to time, but we're gonna be pumping out content at a more consistent rate for you guys so you can enjoy it on a week-to-week basis. My goal, as always, is simple. I want you guys to get better at Legion because I think that helps you have a little more fun. The more you know, the better you're gonna be. And that's really the biggest tip I can give you guys, is the more you learn about Legion, the better you're going to be at it. The people that know more about the game usually are better at the game. It's that simple. So I hope you guys are out there competing. I hope you take some of this advice and use it in the field this week. Keep playing, keep rolling dice, and as always, good luck and have fun.